sisters, Donna Partow here, welcoming you to day 25 of your 90-day renewal in spirit, soul, and body. Today I want to continue talking with you about your eating habits, and I want to talk with you about how to lower your total calorie intake. I want to give you a couple of ideas on that. Yesterday we established that researchers have found that people who live a long life, 100 years or more, they've found that one of the most obvious things that they have in common is a lifelong habit of low caloric intake. And so by reducing the amount of calories that you consume, you actually live a longer, healthier life, and you'll find that on a day-to-day basis, you're actually more energetic. I know it's counterintuitive because you think you eat for energy, but as I said yesterday, there's a law of diminishing returns. I'm going to give you two little hints of how to practically reduce the amount of calories that you're taking in. One is to, keep a little notebook, keep a little journal, and keep track of how many calories you consume. Look on the side of the box and you will be blown away at what it says that a portion is. It might say cereal, 3/4 cup is a portion, is a serving size. Well, measure out 3/4 cups, and it may say, and a half a cup of milk with it. Measure that out. You will be absolutely amazed that you are probably eating 2, 3, 4, 5 portions worth of, of a particular food item. Get a little bag of Fritos or something and look on the side, and there's four portions, 4 serving sizes in that little bag. I think what's happened is what I call portion distortion. Those of you who are in the 90-day jumpstart, I'm sure you've heard me talking about this before, but it's important. What's happened in our culture is that we've completely gone crazy on portion sizes. I was actually looking, I couldn't find a little teacup, but if you go, like I grew up back east in Philadelphia, if you go and tour the antique shops and things like that, their teacups were tiny because they were not eating, they weren't drinking enormous amounts of fluids. See, this is a reasonable little cup of tea or hot cocoa, or if you want coffee, whatever. This is a reasonable portion. This, not reasonable. Look how much bigger. It's the size of the cup that you use very often that determines what you think is reasonable. I saw a book in Barnes & Noble the other day, and the whole thing was about, plate. Having the right size plate diet. I have this particular plate. It's called the portion plate, and your plate should be 8 inches across and no more to be a reasonable portion, and then they've divided it. The lower half, your protein, your protein should be about the size of the deck of cards. You can have a healthy carbohydrate to fill about this size, and this should be your vegetables, okay? And so this is an example of what a healthy portion should look like. Notice the difference. I'm going to show you these two. Notice how much larger the typical plate is, and in fact this isn't even typical anymore. This plate is probably 15 maybe even 20 years old. Now the plates that they're coming out with are ginormous. I mean, when you go into a restaurant, the plates they give you are like platters that would feed a family of 4 when I was growing up. And so the portion distortion is really a problem. And one of the things that I want to give you is a very practical tip. Rather than using this huge plate for your everyday meals, use the smaller plate. Ideally, if you can afford it, go out and buy the 8-inch plate. I don't remember what the name is. There's a name for it. I'm not fancy enough to remember what that particular plate is called. But if you go out and look, get a smaller plate. Use smaller bowls. Use smaller cups. That's a simple way to guard against portion distortion. And when you go out to eat, if anybody in America is left, you can still afford that luxury. When you go out to eat, split the entree because they give you so much food. It's absolutely ridiculous. Or the other thing that you can do is say, when you bring my food, would you bring me an extra container? And when the plate arrives of food, take half of it and put it in the takeout container. Don't even leave it on your plate to tempt you. Well, there's just some practical ideas that you can implement in your life to get the upper hand in the war on portion distortion. I hope that helps. That's it for today with your 90-day renewal.